Shri Hare Namaha. A common question raised by many is why organizations like ISKCON refer to Shiva as a demigod or subordinate to Vishnu and not Parabrahman. The Shastras have repeatedly stated that Shiva, Adishakti and many other devatas are Parabrahman, but ISKCON and many Vaishnavas deny this. So what is the exact reason for this? Not many have told the straightforward answer to this question. The fact is that Hindu Dharma, or Sanatana Dharma as we call it, has multiple philosophies. There have been numerous darshanas, each of which interpret the Shastras favoring its own tenets. Some have been atheistic too and have denied the existence of Paramatma or a supreme being. So there are 6 Astika darshanas, such as Nyaya, Mimamsa and Yoga, along with multiple other darshanas. So the oldest and the major darshanas are these popular ones, but along with them, there is a mention of other darshanas as well in the Shastras, such as the Mahabharata and Puranas. The philosophy of Sankhya was propagated by Kapila Maharshi. The philosophy of Yoga was propagated by Brahmadeva, that is Hiranyagarbha. Along with these, 2 other popular philosophies have been known as Pashupata and Pancharatra. Pashupata is the philosophy of Shaivism, or which considers Shiva to be the supreme god, that is Parabrahman. And similarly, Pancharatra is the philosophy of Vaishnavism, which considers Vishnu to be the supreme god. The philosophy of Pashupata, that is Shaiva Dharma, was narrated by Shiva, that is Pashupati. And the narrator of Pancharatra is Bhagavan Narayana Rishi. So, as it is said in the Mahabharata, Pancharatrasya Kritsnasya Vakta tu Narayanah Swayam Jnaneshveteshu Rajendra Sarveshvetad Vishishyate. The narrator of the Pancharatra philosophy is Sri Narayana himself. That is, Sri Vishnu himself has propagated the philosophy of Pancharatra, and therefore, among all sources of knowledge, it is indeed the best and unique, as said by Vaishampayana Rishi himself. This philosophy called Pancharatra was propagated by Sri Vishnu himself in the beginning of Satyayuga. This is stated again in the Moksha Dharma Parva of the Mahabharata. The philosophy of Pancharatra was given to Brahmadeva during the beginning of creation, after which it was propagated by the rishis and all other entities. As this philosophy was preached by Bhagavan Vishnu himself during his avatara as Narayana Rishi, the Shastras have repeatedly mentioned that this is the best among all philosophies. Similarly, in the Chandogya Upanishad, Devarshi Narada also mentions that he too has the knowledge of Ekayana, which is another name for Pancharatra. The name Pancharatra is derived from a yajna of 5 nights conducted by Brahmadeva, through which he received the knowledge of Pancharatra. It is also because this is a 5-fold type of knowledge. So this is why even the Shatapatha Brahmana mentions a yajna conducted by Brahmadeva with Narayana as his Antaryami, where he receives the knowledge of Pancharatra. So in the Varaha Purana, Sri Varaha himself mentions as to why the Pancharatra philosophy is one of the best and belongs to him and is also a method to attain him. Detailed information about the Vaishnava philosophy of Pancharatra and its mention in the Shastras are covered in our previous video on the same topic. The link is in the description. So coming to the reason as to why Vaishnava Sampradayas, such as ISKCON and others, consider Shiva to be a demigod or subordinate to Vishnu, the simple answer is that this is stated in the Vaishnava Agamas themselves. The Vaishnava Agamas state that Shiva is actually a Jivatma, just like the other Devatas, who are also in Samsara. The only person who is Parabrahman is Sri Vishnu alone. Shiva is the Devata of Manas, the mind, and he is subordinate to Brahmadeva. His Antaryami, or the indweller, is the form of Vishnu known as Sankarshana. It is Sankarshana who is praised as the Supreme Being when Shiva is praised as the Supreme Being, and through this interpretation, there is no contradiction. Just as Sri Vishnu is Paramatma and the Sarvantaratma of all beings, he is similarly the Antaratma of Shiva as well. The same tenets of the Pancharatra Darshana can similarly be found even in the Puranas as well. So just like every other darshana, even the philosophy of Vaishnavism interprets all other apparently contradicting vakyas in favor of the Vaishnava philosophy and the supremacy of Sri Vishnu alone. So similarly, even those statements apparently favoring the supremacy of Shiva are interpreted to favor the supremacy of Sri Vishnu. This is the simple explanation as to why Vaishnavas consider Sri Vishnu alone to be Paramatma and not Shiva. So for this reason, all Vaishnava Sampradayas, be it Madhvas, Sri Vaishnavas or Gaudiyas, consider the same thing, even Vaikhanasas for that matter. As stated by Sri Madhvacharya himself, only Sri Vishnu alone is Ishvara, and all the Devatas, including Brahma, Rudra, and all others, are Jivas. Similarly, even Sri Pillai Lokacharya states the same in his work known as Tattvatraya. Therefore, when any Vaishnava says that Shiva is subordinate to Vishnu, they are merely following the tenets of Vaishnava philosophy which has been propagated by Sri Vishnu himself. Similar is the case of Shaiva Darshanas. The Shaiva Agamas also similarly propagate that it is Sri Shiva alone who is Paramatma and not Sri Vishnu. They also state that Sri Rudra alone can grant moksha and no one else. So therefore, when any member of a respective darshana follows their darshana, they will propagate what their darshana teaches. The only darshana which believes in the oneness of Vishnu and Shiva or Harihara Abheda is the philosophy of Shankaracharya, that is known as the Smarta Darshana. This darshana rejects the Vaishnava and Shaiva Agamas, or most of their parts. And because of this, Shankaracharya gives such a conclusion that Vishnu and Shiva are the same person and both are forms of Parabrahman. However, this is not acceptable from the point of view of other darshanas. Therefore, when a Vaishnava or a Shaiva believes in the supremacy of their respective Ishtadeva, they are merely following their philosophy. As a matter of fact, no Vaidika Darshana actually disrespects any Devata simply by saying that they aren't Paramatma. For that matter, numerous Madhva Matas have always worshipped Shiva and even have Shivalingas. The direct disciple of Sri Madhvacharya, Sri Narayana Panditacharya, has even authored a famous Shiva Stuti which is recited by all Madhva Vaishnavas. The famous Shiva temple of Dharmasthala in Karnataka is also owned by Madhvas, and the linga was established by none other than the famous Madhva sannyasi Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu. Numerous Madhva poets such as Sri Kanakadasa, Sri Purandaradasa have all written bhajans glorifying Shiva and also kshetras of Shiva. Therefore, there is absolutely no disrespect when a Vaishnava merely follows his or her Siddhanta. Unfortunately, today's Hindus do not have much of an idea about all this, and they are misled into believing that by default the Smarta belief of Harihara Abheda is default for all Hindu darshanas. Due to extreme ignorance of various Hindu darshanas and their different tenets, people believe that when any sampradaya for that matter preaches that either Vishnu or Shiva is the supreme being and not the other, they believe that it is a deviation from the Shastras, which is actually not the case at all. This again is perhaps one of the most ridiculous arguments ever presented. Considering that the same Shastras which preach Vaishnava or Shaiva philosophy have been propagated by the Devatas themselves, there is no chance that there would be a contradiction or that the Devatas themselves have contradicted what the Shastras preach. So the Mahabharata itself says, Jnane Shveteshu Rajendra Sankhya Pashupatadishu Yatha Yogam Yatha Nyayam Nishta Narayanaha Paraha. No matter what is preached by the other philosophies, such as Sankhya, Pashupata, and the rest, they all should be reinterpreted to favor Narayana's supremacy. So, as explained already, every Vakya in the Shastras, be it the Vedas or the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Puranas, every Darshana reinterprets those Vakyas favoring its own tenets. So, similarly, all those Vakyas in the Vedas or other Shastras which preach that Shiva is Paramatma or even superior to Vishnu have to be reinterpreted in two ways. Either it is written in the form of Darshana Bhasha as explained by Sri Madhvacharya, that it is speaking from the point of view of another philosophy, for example Pashupata or Shaivism, especially seen in the Shaiva Puranas. Or else, those Vakyas have to be reinterpreted considering them to ultimately refer to Sri Vishnu's form Sankarshana, who is the Antaryami of Shiva. Therefore, there can be obviously no contradiction here. For thousands of years and centuries together, there have been numerous darshanas in Hindu Dharma, and there have been various followers for each of those darshanas. And all of them have always proven that they have valid reasons to interpret the Shastras the way they interpret it. And therefore, for the sake of today's modern secularism, no sampradaya has the right to change it or whatever or deviate from their own Mula Gurus. Therefore, every sampradaya is justified in following the tenets it follows and in believing in the supremacy of a particular devata over others. Thank you for watching. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. This video is available in English, Kannada and Hindi. Now you can share our content with more people.